Hi, I'm Joe Harroz, president of the University of Oklahoma. I want to welcome you to our Conversations with the President. This platform gives me the chance to talk to some of the great people who make OU so special. Make sure you're subscribed to Conversations with the President, and you'll be the first to know when new episodes are released. Let's get started. Welcome back to Conversations with the President. I know you're likely binge listening and binge watching to each of these shows, so I need not remind you, but for those that are not doing that, the last episode we had with Conversations with the President was with George Henderson, Dr. George Henderson. It was a feature for Black History Month. He is truly an icon of OU and an important historical figure for all of us and a dear, dear friend. So if you haven't watched it yet or listened to it yet, please do so with all of the options we have for platforms for this program. So today's episode, incredibly excited about this. We are now talking about an area that is new for many and familiar in lots of ways to others, and that is online education, where it's come from at OU, where it is today, and where it's going. It is my honor to welcome as our guest Dr. Gregg Garn. So here we are with Dr. Gregg Garn. Gregg, you have a phenomenal background, but it includes at OU being Dean of the College of Education for 7 years, during the same time period that I was Dean of the College of Law. And the last, really since COVID hit, the last 2.5, 3 years, you've taken over as the head of OU Online. So thank you for joining us.
No, happy to be here, excited to share some of the opportunities that we've had to really connect with a group of learners that in the past the university hasn't had the opportunity to really get connected to the university.
All right, before we get to the substance of this, and we will, we covered just a really just sort of the high level your CV, but I think your greatest accomplishment, probably professionally, was to be co-coach of the Hello Kitty Rockstar soccer team.
One of the legendary youth soccer teams around. In fact, that group of girls now, I think, is in high school. And I got to say, at least 3, maybe even 4, maybe looking at all-star recognition. So, Joe, I know you and I had the pleasure of coaching our kiddos when they were younger, and it was really an amazing opportunity to connect.
Yeah, it was. And it's great. Part of being part of the OU family is you get to have these experiences. And so I've known you both professionally and personally, and grateful to have you as a colleague and a friend. So let's talk about online education. Could you indicate what it's not and what it is?
Yeah, so what it's not is simply having a Zoom of a professor doing a lecture. What it is connecting an instructional designer, a videographer, people that are incredibly insightful in understanding how technology can connect with the deep learning that our faculty have to be able to get that out to students, whether they're around the state, around the region, or around the world.
Yeah, and so in the university strategic plan, it is a key strategy of ours, is to grow online education. You might talk about where it started a couple of years ago under your leadership and where it is today.
Yeah, so the thing that I'm incredibly excited about, when we started OU Online, we had a couple of hundred students across a variety of different programs that were emerging. We now have hit over 3,000 students. We've coordinated best practices. Every time we open up another program, we're able to build in the learning that we've had prior to that. And so the opportunity to work across the health science campus, every college on the Norman campus has been incredibly fulfilling in a way where it allows us to really expand the traditional students that we've been able to work with.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So when I was Dean of the College of Law, we started doing some online Masters of Legal Studies programs.
Yep.
And I taught in the classroom for 25 years before I taught my first online class. There's a member of the crew here today that saw just how poor of a job I did, and she's laughing because she knows it's true. I thought that being a good in-classroom professor would translate directly to online. And you've covered a couple of these things, but you talk about instructional design.
Yeah.
You talk about these key elements. Before you get into those details, I would just say anecdotally, I thought it would be the same from a professor's standpoint and in the way that students consume the knowledge, and it simply wasn't. I really struggled in putting together my first class, which was around healthcare law and regulation in a Master's of Legal Studies in Healthcare Law and Regulation. It was the intro class, so presumably you'd think the easiest class to teach. I put in quality standards soon after starting it, and the only person that I had to remove from their teaching assignment was me. I did not meet the quality standards. They're exacting. And it's not just how you prepare for it, it's also the kind of feedback that you get. So could you cover how you build it, how it's different, and how we ensure that what we're providing is truly OU quality?
Sure. Well, first of all, you're being incredibly humble. I mean, I think it was under your leadership that the law school was able to expand those Masters of Legal Studies that really did allow some incredible opportunities to connect in the areas of Indigenous studies, in healthcare, international business. There's a variety of different areas that you were able to lead there. So again, humility aside,
just to be clear, that was leading, not teaching, right? Like we generally arrive there, but through no fault of me in the actual classroom.
Hey, let's just go with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's just go with it.
Yeah.
No, the point that I would make though is when you go through the development of an online course, you really do expand your teaching tool belt, so to speak. There's a number of faculty that are incredibly good in person, and that doesn't always translate to online. There are some skills in terms of understanding how you assess at a distance and how you think about setting up curriculum, how you use a variety of different technologies to be able to get that knowledge across, assess it, and assure that those students are able to do it. You just don't have some of the same things that you have in the classroom. And so what we really try and do at OU Online is to provide those services to the faculty that are participating. These are not separate faculty. These are the regular faculty that we have at the institution. It's not a separate degree. They're creating it. They're the core group that are teaching these classes. And really the ability to work with them opens up larger conversations. In fact, what we've found is once faculty are able to go through the preparation to teach online, it oftentimes has this really positive, almost unintended positive impact back on their in-class teaching.
Agreed.
Because they've opened up to a number of different ways to think about how do I deliver knowledge, how do I assess knowledge, and then make sure that students are learning in a really powerful way.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it well. Let's talk about the kinds of courses that OU Online offers right now. They're predominantly in the master's space, correct?
Correct. We've started in professional masters, and the true essence of what we're trying to do is to meet the needs of the state and the region economically. So that all begins with a market analysis, and what we're looking for is really good outcomes for students, that they're going to have job opportunities in these areas, and that it aligns with the growth that the governor and the legislature and some of the trends that we see in terms of different jobs. So that's where it all begins, is making sure that we have the ability to create degrees that really respond to the needs of the local and regional economy. From there, one of the things that we're excited about is we oftentimes have an industry advisory board that works with the faculty to be able to identify not just the courses, but some of the outcomes that they really need to have. We've had a number of our programs where they've benefited immensely from that insight from folks that are in those jobs and can really articulate the kinds of learning that needs to happen. The last thing that we've tried to layer into these professional master's programs are industry certificates. So it's almost like a 2-for-1. It's not just you're taking this class, which then come together to get you this degree, but along the way, we're embedding a number of industry-based certificates that allow additional flexibility for folks who are in these programs.
So to date, in our master's programs, these professional masters, as they're referred to, these aren't research-based masters that could then lead to a PhD. It really is in a particular industry. How do you, as someone who's already working in that industry most of the time or wanting to enter that industry, how do you upskill yourself? And by doing it online, they're able to do it on their schedule and receive the professional instruction that allows them to advance their careers. What are you seeing in terms of outcomes? Are we seeing that these professional masters are helping people get the next job or a better salary?
We absolutely are. We're seeing some great indicators. And one of the things that we've really tried to do is to tailor the career services that we do. So this is not somebody that's graduating with a bachelor's where they need maybe that first resume or those kinds of things. One of the huge advantages that we have is the network of the OU family. And so the ability to get a degree from this institution, we have so many folks in the state and region that are incredibly receptive to additional graduates there. And so being able to kind of plug into that family tree, if you will, is a huge asset to being able to get a degree from this institution.
Yeah, so you might give a couple of examples of the sort of more popular professional master's online degrees that we have in OU Online.
Yeah, so I would say one of them right now that is growing incredibly quickly is clinical mental health counseling. So huge needs and growth in the area around substance abuse and other areas, and a program that prepares people to be able to help others is a degree that has grown pretty quickly over the past few semesters. Social work is another area. Increasingly, we're seeing needs for families and in that space, and so being able to grow professionals there. What I'm really excited about is the growth that we will see over the next couple of years at the Health Science Center. This is a state where we really need to do a better job in terms of health outcomes and the ability of our health science colleges to grow in the area of nursing and public health and any number of other areas is an exciting opportunity for us to grow into.
Yeah, fantastic. And I saw that on this most recent Regents agenda, there was discussion about in the Regents past, over the last two Regents meetings, a new suite of offerings that were outside of the professional master's online space. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we're calling this adult degree completion. And the idea is if you're 25 or older and have 60 credit hours, that could be sort of from a number of different institutions. It could be packaged in an associate's degree. What we've built out are online pathways, again, that allow you to keep the job that you have, but then upskill, if you will, so that you're able to get a degree at the University of Oklahoma. It's interesting, Joe. One of the things that we've tried to do in OU Online is to be incredibly data focused. And when I saw some data that shows the state of Oklahoma exports about 18,000 individuals that are getting their degrees out of state, in importing about 2,500 individuals that are coming from another zip code into the state of Oklahoma on an annual basis. I want to capture that. And a lot of that is going to adult degree completion programs that exist outside the state of Oklahoma. So I want to give them an option in state. Again, I think it's just going to be a great opportunity for us. And this is a population we really don't have lots of experience with. So the opportunity to grow in a way that not only meets learners' needs, but also gives us another group to connect into the OU family is a pretty exciting opportunity.
You know, those are fascinating numbers. When we look at Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is comparable to the rest of the country in this, over the last 10 years, we know there's been this big decrease nationwide in the number of people going to colleges and universities, which is completely opposite of the reality that all of the good jobs, or there's a huge number of a higher percentage of the best paying jobs that require a university degree or education beyond your bachelor's degree. That in Oklahoma, just in the last 10 years, there are now 65,000 fewer students in Oklahoma colleges and universities than there were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So the numbers you talk about in terms of those that are leaving to go online out of state versus online in state, to me are a big part of that and are compelling.
Yeah, no, you're right on. And you heard in the governor's state of the state, the sort of challenge to grow to 40,000 students by the end of the decade or in the next decade or so. We're ready to embrace that. I mean, I think there's this great opportunity to connect with individuals that maybe physically can't be on our campus, but if we can have the opportunity to offer professional master's degrees that allow you to upskill, if we can offer adult degree completion, if we can expand into the Health Sciences Center and be able to offer better prepared professionals that can go in and help alleviate some of the outcomes, I think the sky's the limit. I think we are able to do this in a way that meets the OU standard. It's high quality. It's our regular faculty that are creating these programs, teaching in these programs, and then we filter that in with extraordinary professionals, people who are leaders in these fields that become adjunct faculty to be able to partner with our regular faculty to deliver excellence.
Yeah, there's a lot of hard work that goes into this. Watching you and the team is something special. A lot of folks can identify the need. A lot of folks see the desperate need for this, and yet it's not being met. And I think a lot of people are concerned that it will somehow cannibalize the traditional undergraduate experience. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think increasingly we need to be sensitive to the what I would call the mode of learning that the student wants. The University of Oklahoma traditionally has been as good or better than anybody at delivering that in-person education. We're never going to stop doing that. But what we need to be able to address is learners that want what we have, the degrees, the certificates, the opportunities to continue their learning in a variety of different modes. And online, I think, fits a gap that in the past, we've sort of done here and there. We now are in a place where we can do that with the same level of excellence that we do for our in-person learners.
Yeah, to me, one of the things as we went through the strategic planning process is we realized that there are all of these students that either are going out of state online to do this, or more often than not receiving the education at all because the traditional way of delivering it in person on a physical campus simply won't work for them in their lives.
Exactly.
They don't have the time to take away from their jobs and their families, and it simply won't work, or it's too geographically distant.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. All right, so for our listeners, you started this off a few years ago. It was a couple of hundred students. Now it's over 3,000 students that are in this. We have expanded. Almost all of those are now professional master's students. So after their 4-year degree, with the last couple of Regents meetings, we're now OU Online's moving into degree completion, sort of the other end of this. And then there's also a big movement in both areas to focus on the Health Sciences Center.
Correct.
And now we effectively have 4 primary campuses, right? We have the campus in Norman, we have the Health Science Center in Oklahoma City, we have the Schusterman campus in Tulsa, and now OU Online. And to me, that's really exciting. It's a new campus, it's a virtual campus, but it's growing at a remarkable rate. And that's exciting.
It is. And I would say, one of the things that we've really tried to do is to think about how do we build community in a virtual campus? What we don't want to do is just have people plug it in for the class and then feeling dislocated, like they're not deeply connected. So one of the things that we're really excited about are a series of affinity groups that we've created that allow students across programs to connect on interests that might be outside of the individual program that they're on. We now have hundreds of students that have joined these affinity groups and again find themselves deeply connected to the campus. The other thing that we've tried to do is to really ensure that we get students to physically be on campus for graduation. And I can't tell you how exciting it is to have folks that are at a distance through most of their program of study. They come here for graduation. They see the beauty of the campus. They really become a part of the family, if you will.
So this to me was shocking. When we started at the law school and began with the Masters of Legal Studies online program, I just, we just decided at first we would add those students to the traditional law school graduation. I thought there might be, 5 or 10 show up. And after the first year, we had to create an entirely separate graduation because there were too many of them, and their enthusiasm was off the charts. And the excitement, especially because a lot of these already had jobs, and they were upskilling to their next, but they came to graduation. They were so excited about it. They brought their families with them. And I was surprised at how much connection and love there was, just like any other student at a different campus.
Yeah. And that again, that is such an opportunity for those folks to truly become a part of the university. They're not just a satellite where they're not connected. And so we've seen the same thing even on a larger scale where we've got hundreds of students that are coming in for graduation. They're bringing their families. They're sort of connecting in ways that are incredibly powerful. The last thing I'll say in terms of of the connections is we've started a speaker series. And so we'll make sure that we get this connected into the into the group. But we have these extraordinary opportunities to hear thought leaders in so many different areas, and we've connected our online students into that. And so whether it's this kind of a conversation or a thought leader in a different area, our online students have an opportunity to be part of the University of Oklahoma, not just taking a class at a distance, but truly a student at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I would love that hybridized component. During the time that before I fired myself from my online class, some of the students came in for graduation and they were like, it is so nice to meet you and the rest of the professors in person. Like, that was truly exciting for them, and it was great to meet those students. And then one of the students looked at me and said, and I'll be honest, I thought you were a lot taller. And so there is a downside to online teaching, but maybe I'll just stand on a box next time.
Well, listen, that's there are any number of advantages and disadvantages both ways. But I will say a lot of our classes, when we talk about online, there is an in-person component, right? So there's this, it depends on the kind of learning outcomes. If I'm in a nursing program, as an example, I don't want to theoretically give a shot or do that at a distance. There may be a need to come in, have that supervised so that there's a skill or a learning outcome that you can do. And whether that's a business program or an engineering program or any of the other 46 programs that we have, our faculty have really taken an amazing lead in being able to identify these are the kinds of things that are absolutely appropriate for an online, but for those that aren't, we'll have an in-person opportunity to be able to learn that skills and knowledge.
And that's really what separates Zoom from bad online, from average online to highest quality online. And there is such a huge gap in there. And I think for those that haven't taken a class or have only seen, in their mind's eye or in fact, bad online, when online is done the right way, it is a stunning delivery system. And there's no question that you can tell the difference between those things that are average or poor and those that are exceptional. And you might talk about sort of the quality standards that you have. How do you make sure that when we're delivering an OU degree online, that it meets the exacting standards that we have for an OU degree in person?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have a group called ODL, the Office of Digital Learning. Adam Kroom leads that effort, and it's 17 extraordinary individuals who really come together to be able to make sure that we're meeting those standards. There's a set of national standards called OLC, the Online Learning Consortium Standards, that we build into every course that we create. And so as those professionals are able to work with faculty who have that depth of knowledge, the faculty member doesn't have to be the expert on how I deliver this. We're able to connect those professionals, making sure that they meet OLC standards across all those courses.
Yeah, it's stunning. And it, to me, seeing the impact that it has on students is amazing. I mean, going back to the law school, the Indigenous Peoples Masters, it changed the lives of individuals and changed their communities in ways that were, that really make you proud of what you're doing and the impact that you're having.
Well, and think about it. If the only option was to physically come to the law school to get that, there are so many of those students that just that door wouldn't be open.
Ever.
And so the idea that as a university, again, so much credit to your leadership to be able to put the focus behind this that allows us to connect with students that, 10, 20, 30 years ago, we just simply wouldn't have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's a huge strategy for us, and it's important for us to expand this in the highest quality way, in every way that we can. All right, tell us about the future. You spend a lot of time, thinking about what the horizon looks like, as well as putting in new programs here. Tell us what you think the future of online education looks like, and what do you then see the future of OU Online becoming?
So there are a couple of things that we're thinking about now that in the very near future, I think we'll need to grapple with as a university. And one of them is that idea of students pick the modality. So what I mean by that is right now we think about online, and I'm in an online program or I'm in an in-person program. I don't exactly know what the timeline is, but I think in the very near future, we as a university are going to have to be able to allow the student to pick. In one semester, it may be 2 online and 1 in person, and over the summer, I'm going to be in residence in person. That's the kind of flexibility that I think we need to be able to adapt to. We're starting to build the infrastructure to be able to do that. And so I think, as one of the things on the horizon, that's it. I'd say another issue on the horizon is thinking about what I'm going to call the area of professional doctorates. So one of the things that historically this university has been incredibly good at is research degrees. Terminal research degrees, the PhD and any number of different subject areas, where I think we can really lean into in online. Again, I don't exactly know if it's a year, 3 years, what that horizon is, but professional doctorates. So instead of a dissertation that I'm writing, it's some kind of a project that impacts the company that I lead or the school that I lead, or there's some kind of professional focus building off the professional master programs that we've done and sort of going into that terminal degree level. So I think those are 2 areas that hold immense promise, not just for this university, but sort of thinking about how do we cater to the needs of the learner. What are those opportunities? Maybe the last thing that I'll throw in there is just continuing to really think about how we have industry partnerships. So not just building a degree program that our faculty think is best in class, but really bringing in those industry professionals and asking them, what are the kind of outcomes that you want graduates to immediately be able to do in your company, in your sector, and then make sure that we have those close partnerships to be able to respond to that.
We've talked about the Hello Kitty rock stars and the youth 4-year-old to 8-year-old, which we were, without a doubt,
best in class.
Best in
class.
Best
in class, no doubt.
But we also have sons that are both freshmen this year. Both of them made it to the second semester by all indications.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But when you talk, when you're having a conversation with Dylan and you tell him and you think about with him what his educational future looks like and where online may fit into that. How should students that are doing a traditional degree today think about online over the next few years and once they graduate?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would, so this is going to be a little bit radical. I would argue that if an in-person student doesn't graduate with an online experience, we've done them a disservice. I fundamentally believe that
and by online, you do not mean a Zoom class.
I do not mean a Zoom class or I'm not feeling good. I'm going to do this from a distance, but a highly structured, well done online class. And the reason that I say that is when I think about his learning or Joseph's learning after they graduate from the University of Oklahoma, I can't imagine that it's all going to be in person. And if we're preparing them to be successful in whatever profession they go into, the idea of what excellence looks like and then being able to connect into that so that they can be a good consumer as they're continuing to navigate through the professional educational experiences that they have, I think it's fundamental to the kinds of experiences that they need to have.
Yeah, and to the extent it's radical, it is reality. I mean, the reality is that you just look at what those most sought-after jobs will be. We don't know what so many of them are. We know with the advent of AI, right, machine learning, all of these things that the idea of lifelong learning, the idea of continuing to enhance your educational base and knowledge and to expand it is going to be critical for success in the workforce of tomorrow. And so I think you're right. I think if someone doesn't have one of these truly highly expert online classes, that they won't have the skills necessary to navigate the rest of their career.
Yeah. Well, it makes them a better consumer. As they're moving forward, they've seen what excellence looks like. They've seen best in class. And so as they're looking at different options out there, it gives them a sort of a leveling or horizon to be able to pick that option.
Fantastic. I could talk about this for a really long time. I'm totally have to keep these to a reasonable length. Let me ask you, is there anything we didn't cover that you'd like to cover about OU Online?
No, I think we've hit the high notes. The thing that I would just say is, one last piece that I'm incredibly excited about is the career center that we're developing for our online students, really trying to meet the needs so that not only can we give them the advantage of high quality learning when they're in our classes, but to have an advantageous connection to an industry or a company so that when they graduate, they're just not one of 50 resumes. Their resume is being seen by another OU graduate, or it rises to the top because of the networks that we've been able to establish. And so really thinking about not just high quality while they're in the program, but ensuring those great career outcomes as they navigate out is maybe the last thing that I'd like to emphasize.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, it's fascinating. After your career as a member of the faculty, and then spending 7 years as dean of the College of Education, we talk about we change lives as our purpose, and what you are doing and have done already, and will do in the future around OU Online is impacting so many people that otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity. So I know it's difficult work, it's pioneering work, and on behalf of all of those students, thank you. Appreciate you very much, Greg.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Conversation with the President. So great to have Dr. Gregg Garn here with us, a true leader and pioneer in online education and impacting the lives of so many. So don't be scared to subscribe. You're binge watching it and binge listening already, so it just makes sense. Look forward to you all joining us next time on Conversations with the President. Thanks a lot.